I want to thank you all for being here today. Today, I'm going to talk about epigenetics and how to change your DNA. So, tune in. There's some very practical tips that I will be going through on modify your DNA, change your DNA, and go into how to do all that and what epigenetics is. So basically, what epigenetics is it allows you to way back in the day, they thought your DNA was just set the way it is. You'd have predispositions to certain conditions, and that was that. And now they've actually found that you can modify your DNA, and that's what I'm going to go through some very practical tips in this talk today about how to modify your DNA, how to do it intentionally, and how to do it spiritually as well as physically. So, way back when I was growing up, they used to think that our brains were set the way that they were. Like by the time you're, a child, and by the time you become an adult, that however it is, that's the way your brain is, and that's final. And then they realized there's something called neuroplasticity. And what plasticity is basically they realize that you can actually change your brain no matter what age you are. And like, how cool is that? So know that you can do this. Let me give you an example. Is one of the best ways to change your brain is to gorge it with tons and tons of blood. How do you do this? High intensity cardio. And so what you want to do is when you do cardio, you want to purposely, what a lot of people do is they'll get they'll go for a brisk walk or a fast walk or something like that, and they'll get their heart range up to a certain level. But what you actually want to do is you want to get your heart rate up to a super high level. Like I get mine up to 160 beats per minute, 170, sometimes even 180, even higher when I go for my really intense runs. And I go for it. And I'm doing this very intentionally on purpose, trying to get my heart rate up. And of course, there's all sorts of other physiological benefits of doing this, including strengthening your heart and all your arteries and your veins and all that other cool stuff. But what it does is in your brain, it gorges your brain into those little crevices inside the inner parts of your brain that if you don't do high intensity cardio, it will actually miss that, and you actually won't actually get that full benefits. So what you want to do is you want to try to do that on purpose. And then what that does is the neuroplasticity part of your brain is that it will actually help to rewire and revitalize that brain as you're aging, and to keep it young and youthful and healthy no matter what your age at. You want to do this all your life and as much as you can. So that's one thing that's really important. And how does this relate to epigenetics? Well, the same thing with epigenetics is we thought that our genes were just set in stone. So for example, there's one time I slipped on some ice and I fell back and I hurt my shoulder really, really bad. And I couldn't even I just tried to lift it just a little bit. And I'm a teacher and I was working for the government at the time, and I was writing on a whiteboard, and I couldn't even lift my hand to write on the whiteboard. I'd have to get my students to come up and write for me. And I went to three specialists, like three of them, like a doctor, another specialist, and another specialist, and all three of them said, "Ken, you'll never be able to lift your arm up again." They did scans on it, and they found that the main ligament tendon was like snapped, like broken, and completely torn, and I couldn't even lift it up. And after a few weeks of this, I said to myself, I said, you know what? I'm not going to stand for this. And I started pointing at my shoulder and I said, you are healed. You are healed. You are healed. You are healed. You're fully healed. You are healed. You are healed. And I just kept repeating that over and over and over again. And what happened was within just a few weeks, I was 100% healed. Now I could do pull-ups, push-ups, all that stuff I couldn't even do before. It was incredible. And that's a way that we can change our bodies through our intention, through our effects. So here's some tips that I recommend. Okay. So eat healthy. Think of it like genes or genetics. Like we have predispositions to certain conditions potentially. And by eating healthy and reducing stress and meditation and all those other self-care practices, you're going to minimize the risk of this actually happening and becoming an issue or a challenge later. I strongly feel that there's a lot of conditions that people in their older age struggle with that could have been prevented had they done preventative maintenance on it, preventative healing and health on these topics. So that's one thing that I try to be intentional about. And also the how I talk to myself. What do I say to myself? Do I say good, loving things and caring things? I try to be very intentional about this. Um, and then another thing that's really important is that we work with our spirit guides. And this is when we get into the spiritual stuff. So this is where it gets really cool. I've been working with Palladians a lot in my monthly ascension group healings that I do. These are regular events that I do on a monthly basis. You can find it on my website. Please feel free to attend. It's 1 hour of hardcore intense healing. And lately, in the last, like, I don't know, 6 months to a year, they've been wanting me to do spiritual upgrades for the people in attendance, because they want our DNA to be at a much more healthier, highly evolved state than it is now. So we can start to evolve into a more highly evolved species. And so what you can do with your spirit guides is ask your spirit guides, how can I help? How can I work on my DNA to increase the vibrancy of it, the vitality of my DNA, of my health, and be very intentional about talking good stuff to your DNA, to your cells, and then see if, like, maybe ones want to come in and they want to help and assist, or maybe your spirit guides will be like, Ken, it's time for you to meditate and do mindfulness meditation, or maybe practice astral traveling, because then when you do that, you're out of your body and you can just let your body get a reprieve from the intensity of it. Or maybe it's I don't know, going in the water, going in like bodies of water, whether it's lakes or oceans or rivers or stuff like that, or even swimming, in a pool. Anything like that can really help to cleanse our body, and of course going to see healers and any kind of healing and clearing, so that we can work on getting rid of those contaminants in our body that might come from our ancestors, our past lives, our akashic records, and on and on and on and on. So there's a whole bunch of ways that we can work with epigenetics to our advantage. We can change and modify our genetics, our physiological. I had one client just recently tell me that she actually did it before and after, where her DNA has actually changed after the healings that she's been receiving from me. So we can do this on ourselves as well. And I also recommend do this with other healers. My name is Ken Lewicki. If you want to know more about channeling, know more about medical mediumship, how to identify these things, and then a whole bunch of healing modalities, I do teach all this. Have a wonderful day, everyone. We will see you soon.